This conference will now be recorded.
This is PAR01's 2019 facility plan meeting with the State Construction Department. We'll introduce ourselves first. My name is Troy Decker, planning. My role in facility planning is quality control, make sure we abide by all state statutes, rules, and regs. Make sure that we capture the data needed so that we have accurate reports to the commission and to the select committee down the road. And I'm also part of the budget team that puts together budget recommendations for the commission.
Good morning, Brandon Finney, State Construction. My role with the team is to identify all the capital construction needs and work with Troy to present to various legislative bodies in anticipation for appropriation.
Steve McDonald, the Regional Project Manager, and I work with you guys on your major maintenance spending and some capital projects as well.
Amber Leach, Policy Planning Analyst, and my role is to work with the districts and the documentation for today's facility plan meeting.
Raj Nami, I'm the accounting analyst, and I've been helping out with the facility plan ever since Charlie went to Plat 1. I've been just helping these guys out with a little bit of everything.
Good morning, this is Jake Curtis, Superintendent PAR01.
Mary Jo Lewis, Coordinator of Business Services, PAR01.
Rob McCray, Coordinator of Support Services, PAR01.
Right, good morning, welcome. I'm going to go ahead and turn off our webcam so we don't have any streaming difficulties. So with that, we'll go ahead and continue on. This first part's more housekeeping than anything else, but I'll kind of go through it fairly quickly. But if we have anything to talk about, please don't hesitate to talk. I know that we have some things later on in the meeting that are going to be a little bit longer in discussion. One of the things that Amber's added to our team a lot is doing a lot of things on the front end of these facility plans, and that's important because it allows us then, as many of us that are part of this process, to really spend time on those important things for discussion. And the database is one of those things that can be done and confirmed ahead of time. Every once in a while, the governor's office does, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No problem. Every once in a while, the governor's office does ask for a facility plan to be sent over there to look over. We have had individual legislators ask for facility plans. So what we tried to do over time is make these facility plans so that someone who isn't necessarily familiar with all the details of the facilities in the district, enrollment, capacity, stuff like that, can take this and have some really good visuals, and within 10 minutes have a very good understanding of your district. The other thing that happens is we have turnover in this office, such as Charlie becoming the business manager at Plat 1, which we're very proud of him and supported him very much in. And so we have turnover, and then obviously school districts have a lot of turnover at times throughout the state. So it's a continuity issue, and it's a great resource, especially as personnel change over in the district. So the visuals are very important. We just took Google Earth and gave an example of some of your sites on this. And then we've also been working through the last couple of years the county GIS sites in order to make sure that we confirmed through those county records actual acreages, and we believe that's the official way to do it. And I know you guys are able to go through the county and make sure that those acreages are updated, and we encourage you to do so. So you didn't check the acreages and verify accuracy, and we'll talk about that in just a second. These are reported to WDE in April. The team's working on that, getting it ready to report over to WDE, and it does affect your groundskeeper allowances. And down here, I think you've said several things. I know
Troy, can you hear us on this end?
I'm sorry, what's that?
I said, can you hear us on this end?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Okay, we've got a question.
Can you go back to the map, please? There's a pin there for the old south side, down below.
Okay.
Okay, there's a pin there for old south side. We don't own that anymore.
Okay.
We kept
the pins there for historic reasons.
It's not on the track description, but it's shown on the map. I just want to be clear that we don't own that parcel anymore.
Right. Let's see here.
So it should say no in.
So when it says south side here, the 8.94, you guys still own the 8.94?
Yes, we own that, but on the map, there's a pin above south side that says the old south side elementary school right there. We don't own that anymore.
Okay, got it.
But that's why we.
So
have
Raj,
it
you
as-
can go in and remove that pin. Right? Okay.
But
Or
we've
we
also kept those in for history. If we ever had to go back, we don't have to try to look for it. That's why it's not highlighted with a circle around.
Oh,
it in
I see
terms of
what you're saying.
acreage, so that we're not recreating the wheel. We've already known it is a past property of the facility if you ever look back in AIM. So we want to, and Rob, what I'm explaining here is you see that we did not put acre or a highlight around it, but
Right.
for us and all the background that we've done in AIM, we've just kept those pins because it is historic that you guys did have that property at one time. And it's okay for us to just note that it currently isn't in your inventory, but it was something you had at one time.
So to come back to the districts, okay, and thanks for saying that, Amber. To come back to the district side, I'm almost in favor of getting rid of it. Because we can find that in our database anytime we want. And I'm not sure what the value is. And I think the danger in leaving it, and district, just let me know how you feel. The danger of leaving that is it may give, if this is really truly an overview of your district, you may know that, we may know that, but someone who on the outside gets this, it may create a misunderstanding for them from a visual point of view. So I'm almost leaning toward getting rid of that, and we've got it captured in the database when it disappeared. And I don't think it would ever I don't think in this illustration doesn't really drive the database. The database drives the illustration. So I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm not saying that's wrong, Amber.
No, you're fine.
I'm saying that from a visual, I'd hate to have someone misunderstand something if they were.
We could also just change it to another color so it doesn't.
Or disposed, put old outside ES and then
Disposed. Yeah, if we could change that.
Something, so you sort of meet in the middle, you know that you had it, but you know that it's not there.
Right.
And you know where it was and everything.
Right. And I think that
And then another color.
Yeah.
What do you think, Raj?
Yeah, we can do that.
Are you in there?
Yep.
What color you want, Raj? Pink?
depends on all the state buildings.
Right.
Too.
That's
Troy?
Yes.
Troy, this is Mary Jo, and obviously Rob picked up on the Southside Elementary School, but you have a whole bunch of pins in all those other areas too, up around the high school, not the new high school, but in that middle area there,
Right.
of land disposed of. And I personally agree. I think it's very confusing. If I was somebody from outside and I looked at this, there's nothing designating, that because there's a pin there, it means anything. So I think we need to be very careful if we leave those pins in, that there is something on that map that says that those are disposed of sites or the district no longer owns them, because where we had the old auditorium, that's gone. We don't own that. We don't own, some of the parking lot. And so to leave that Southside Elementary School and some of those in there, it gives a misperception if you're just picking this up and looking at it. There's nothing that says, oh, only look at what's in the yellow bands. But Amber, while you guys are thinking about that, flip to the next page, because Troy kind of went through there about reviewing the acreages. We did that, and there's an error there on line number 1501003, the Parkside Elementary School, and I thought you guys that we're going to correct that. That is supposed to be 3.62, not 3.67. It's a typo on your end. It was correct last year, it's correct the year before, and now all of a sudden it's 3.67, so we need that corrected again.
Okay, I apologize. I thought I had it and I reran that. So I apologize. I will get, so it's supposed to be 3.62 is what.
Yep.
Now, and that's through the county assessor, right? You guys have that, that is the number through them?
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
that is accurate.
Yep.
And so,
Got it.
and it's off the deed. So, you know what, I don't care what the county assessor says, it's off the deed. That's what we have. So that's what we're using as those acreages. So, but it is 3.62 and so I don't know. I think it just somebody typoed it. I just think it was a mishit on a finger thing from last year to this year or something, so.
I thought I had it corrected when I ran it one more time. I will go back and do that again and get it captured correctly.
So Raj is gonna take care of, change that old south side, he'll put demo on it, or we just remove them.
Mhm.
One or the other.
It wasn't demoed, it was just disposed of.
Yeah,
It
the
was not
building's still there. We just sold it.
Disposition. Okay, got it. Yeah,
You know, if you look at the old high school site, it says the same thing there. We still own that property and we still own that building, but it says the same thing as it says at Old South Side. You say you send this document to people, and if you send it to legislators, they're gonna look at that and think we still own that, just like we do the old high school. You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay, so we'll get that and we'll bring that back and we'll get that right, and then we'll update that 3.67 to 3.62. So I think what we ought to do is we'll just say here, I'll just say SCD.
Do we do it on task list?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is me to do a little more than just now.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Who you want the team leader to be?
Try Raj on that one.
Okay, so update. Google Maps.
Google Earth. Google Earth image. Okay.
Middle school.
Okay, that's
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So that is why this is not checked. Once this, guys, Raj, I'll probably have you take the lead on this, and Amber. Once everything looks good here and they agree with the visual here and the acreage is here, we can check that.
Mhm.
And then you guys can add down here, just add one more line, and maybe I'll just say, what do we usually put? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this, and then once we get it all correct, then you guys can unhighlight it, and then it'll be done. Okay? Okay, good job, school district and team. We'll continue to work on that and get it right, because that means money for you people, and we need to have it right. District has reviewed property profiles, report and verifies accuracy. Your square footage in these, allowable square footage, does impact major maintenance and WDE operations, and maintenance payments are also based out of our database. This goes over to WDE again on an annual basis, and from there they start generating your block grant monies. So appreciate you doing that. You've reviewed building leases. Building leases are important. State law requires us to track those with you. And if you have qualifying educational programs in district-owned spaces, and you have enough ADM, then that square footage can be counted towards your major maintenance payment. You've reviewed enhancements. That's a report we need to send to the select committee each year. Appreciate you doing that. So on this portion of it, I did say the AIM database is up to date. Okay, let's go down to appropriations now. You're saying that then the Powell Middle School new construction is complete, and that 260,761.14 can be reverted.
Ron, you got this one, or me too?
I think good.
Okay.
No problem.
That's 1122. Sorry, is that too small?
No, that's fine. I
can blow that up a little. Okay, we're good there. Security, Steve.
As you guys are aware, 2014, the legislature appropriated $9 million to to be spread among districts for security capital projects. And you'll see the 8 highlighted features here out of the 20 security criteria. That $9 million was determined that it needed to be spent on one of these 8 different elements here. So there was kind of rules put on the spending of that $9 million to adhere to these 8 different security funding measures. I will let you know that there is some new funding going through the legislature right now. It's an additional $4.95 million that's going through the legislature to be appropriated for security capital projects. If that money is approved, and correct me if I'm wrong, has that been approved? It's approved. Okay, so that 4.95 has been approved. It will be coming your way. A split of that will be coming your way. They freed that money up so you can spend it on any of the 20 security categories that are identified. So you're not pigeonholed to just those 8. You can spend it on any of the 20. If we can move that slide up a bit, Troy. Okay. We're good. No, other one, please. So when we look at your security capital bucket, you guys have done a real good job of taking advantage of that original $9 million. You've gone ahead and expended that and used it. We really appreciate that. Some districts were a little slower to roll out with that, but you guys jumped right on it. We're real responsible. Use that security capital money, so we do appreciate that. You don't have any of the original $9 million left, but again, 4.95, that additional is coming your way. So probably close to a percentage of half of what you had there before, and we'll be able to spend that on any of the 20 categories that are identified. So a little more freedom there.
Brandon?
Also, yeah.
I have a question. And I don't know, I assume this is a Brandon question. So remember before the problem with how they split that up is they just said, oh, each district gets this much money whether you needed it or not. And if you had all new buildings, you know, the districts that didn't need it, that's why you'll see that we originally only had 109,000 and they went and freed up additional money for us because districts weren't using it. I guess I would just jump in here and say I certainly hope that that will not be how the rules and regs are written on this one, and it's just a split amongst districts at a certain amount of money that really it's looked at what projects are out there and what district needs are, and that we don't end up in problems with that like we had when we tried to allocate and use that money 2 years ago. So I just throw that out and would like that in the comments that is taken into consideration somehow.
Yeah, definitely. I hear your concern. I think the proration of the funds, JJ's reading a bill actually this morning and working on that. And then the deployment will be a lot better. So you won't have, as Stephen said, you pigeonholed into these particular elements. The way the bill is written, it says a commission approved process. And just to give you a heads up, we're looking at pretty much doing a work order. So you just get a check and you can spend it on any facility that you think that would have the best return on your security. And then you submit a work order and turn on the money and go. So I think we've rounded the corner and hopefully we get to a smoother process.
Okay, so what did you say about how it was going to be allocated though by district?
JJ's working on that right now, so we'll have that coming out here pretty quick. We got to take it to the commission and stuff. So.
Do you know what meeting that will be at?
Let me think out loud real quick. It's going to be in May because June the money hits, or the money's going to come at the end of March. We have to. The bill says it has to be a commission approved process. So March we have a meeting, but it's too soon. April we do not have a meeting, so it'll be in May. So the May's meeting will be the security discussion with the commission.
Okay, that's what we want to know. Thank you.
And then once that's put in place, then we can work together. It's kind of the same process as the past. But you'll have more freedom with that money. So you know, we'll work together on that. Moving along to the 10%. Security balance. Again, a couple of years ago, the legislature approved for you to use 10% of your security major maintenance, or excuse me, 10% of your major maintenance bucket of funds to be allocated toward security needs. Now, this money had some different rules to it, different than regular major maintenance. You're actually able to add components or change systems with this 10% security major maintenance money. It wasn't any additional money. It was just allowing you to use 10% of your major maintenance balance to do some security things that had some a little bit more freedom with it than regular major maintenance. So as we can see, 2017, 2018, those dollar figures were the amount of your 10% major maintenance that was set aside. We did have some expenditures that were approved that pretty far exceeded those numbers there. I don't have a lot of history on that to go back on, but what I can tell you is that we're working with the district to go back through and find there were some expenditures that were approved for 10% security that actually did qualify for regular major maintenance because you were replacing the existing systems and things like that. So what we're trying to do now is go back through those work orders and pick out the ones that actually should have been coded regular major maintenance instead of 10% security, and move those funds back to try to get that red number shrunk down a little bit.
Steve, that's already been done. That's completely taken care of. I sent the list down, and Amber and JJ went through it, and that's been done as far as we know. So. But
my question is the red number here on the report. I don't know if that red number reflects.
That red number is not reflective. That's why it's in the comments.
Okay, so that's okay. So that's what I'm explaining now. Yeah, that's why this
number is no longer there, but we couldn't change that. That was something that was being done on the SFD end of that. But I just want to know, the defense of the district, those were all approved as 10% security by SFD, not us doing something wrong. And so, but in order to get this all tied out, we asked that those went back and were changed to regular. And thank you to JJ and Amber for working on that to get that those shifts done.
Well, and Mary Jo, I know that Rob got to join us that day that we were working on it, and we did communicate that day that the ones that we were able to adjust, we did, because there was no expenditures against those. There was a few that there are expenditures, and we were never able to change those back.
Correct, because they expended in the prior fiscal year, not just this fiscal year.
Right.
Yes, I knew that. Yep.
So I just wanted to clarify that just to make sure you were in the loop after you made that comment. But we did the best we could on those. And we also canceled anything that was future that had nothing against, so that you could reallocate those as necessary.
Correct. Yeah, I just need to note that I need that spreadsheet of what you guys did do when you're finally done with that.
I can email that back to you after. I'll have JJ email me what he highlighted to.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send it directly to her and Carly copy you.
Will do.
Yeah, and I'd like to be copied on that as well, because as we went back through that spreadsheet, some of the changes that they made from the 10% back to regular were not appropriate use of regular major maintenance money. So all those monies that were changed back, we're working to make sure that all the rules and regulations were followed. So that number is going to shrink considerably. I don't know that we're going to get it back into the black, but there is a new appropriation coming in 2019 to allow for another extension of this. So that funding there, combined with our efforts to pull stuff back, should get us in a good spot with the 10% security major maintenance. Once the dust settles and we get everything cleared and we know what our final number is, then we'll just, I think the key thing here is that the legislature is not looking to continue that particular policy to allow for that 10% money to be used for security. So once the dust settles and we get the final number and stuff, we'll just need to be real careful moving forward that we don't expend beyond that. And again, it's my responsibility as project manager working with you guys to know where you're at with those funds and to do what we need to do to make sure that we don't get upside down. But we ask you guys to once the dust settles and we get a final number of where we're at, then we'll work together to make sure that we can get you taken care of with your needs, but that we don't want to go beyond that because there's possibly going to be no continuation of that particular funding.
Steve, this is Mary Jo again. I think you're inaccurate on that because we were told, and JJ, and it's actually in your notes, that 10% is going forward in the new allocation for this next year. So I guess we're a little lost on that.
No, that's
that
it.
10% major or 10% security is actually an ongoing thing.
Mary Jo, you are correct. It is on. This is Brandon. It is ongoing right now. The intent is to not dilute the district's major maintenance and get off of that, allow them to spend 10%, and rather than do that, just give them an appropriations. So, you know, in the last legislative session, the commission asked for the 4.9, and that was an attempt to start getting off of the, I'll call it the major maintenance security dilution process. So I think going forward, we're going to keep asking for security money and try to get the districts to be whole in their major maintenance, if that helps.
Okay, so with that, we'll move on from security. Great discussion. Got that one. So capacity, you're at 90.21% in your elementary schools. So not a lot of space, about 80, looks like, what is that, 88 students from full. You guys, this is just overall, it includes not only your elementaries, but your middle school, high school, which you have a lot more room than your elementary schools. Your enrollment projections, let me push that down real quick. So I would open up the spreadsheet here. You guys are familiar, you've been around a long time, but familiar with enrollment projections, but we always like talking about them. So one thing we always like to look at is average kindergarten coming in on it. Each year, your average is 44 students. I'm sorry, 144 students at the kindergarten level. You guys have been dropping a little bit in the last 3 years here, but we're maintaining in the 130s in the last 2 years. Just not to assume anything, what you can do is you can follow, like this is this year's 12th grade, and if you back up, it's a stair step, and you can see, and I'm just making it up here, I don't know which year that was, probably right there. They were probably in 2006 kindergartners, and all this enrollment projection does is follow that student class clear down until they hit 12th grade, number of enrolled students. So how this works is like the 2008 kindergartners advance to 2009 first grade, 2009 kindergarten, 2010 first grade. So we average 10 years of that transition between the two, the survival rate. And you guys from your kindergarten to first grade, you have a 98% survival rate, which means you're losing just a few students between those two, which is not bad at all. But anyway, you guys, you gain some years on average, you gain some years, you lose a little bit. This is typical around freshmen, 8th grade or freshman, you lose a few. And then a lot of times districts, you guys have traditionally gained students. That's kind of an interesting one. Do you guys maybe have some students coming out of Cody or somewhere else, maybe for their, just out of curiosity, what do you think you're gaining in the freshman year? You guys still there?
Yep, we're here. We just keep muting you so that we can have conversations on this end too. For those of you who were ever on one of these meetings with me when I was in Meeteetse, knows that this is one of my pet peeves of this entire process, this enrollment projection data, because the projections were always that Meeteetse was going to fall off the face of the earth. And it looks like, you know, not much has changed, projecting us to lose 200 and some students over the next 10 years. And I just don't think that it's, I guess the methodology to me doesn't make sense. When you look at the history of Powell over the last 5 or 6 years, we've been on an increasing enrollment. and you know, for some reason we you know, and actually we've had steady increases every year except for 2 since 2003, which is one of the notes in here, and yet somehow through this methodology, now we're going to lose 10 or a couple hundred students over the next 10 years. So I just think it's flawed methodology. I don't mean to certainly offend whoever is behind the methodology, but it just seems to be wildly inaccurate, has been to this point, and I don't even know why we put it in here, because if it's not going to be accurate or some sense of accuracy, then why put it in the plan? So it's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, appreciate that. Yeah, these are really not used necessarily as an indicator of what will happen, as much as a tool to use when capital funds come and you're dealing with either condition or capacity or both, and you're looking for a remedy. So it's a tool on when capital funds are coming to try to right size to the best of their ability that remedy for the future. A lot of times, you're absolutely correct, a lot of times it will, in reality, over project, and we'll have a school that is too large for the number of students that actually occupy it. And sometimes, and not very often, if a school district's growing, because we have a methodology also that includes if you have stable and if you have decreasing. And let me give you an example of how this is only a tool and not a rule with regard to mandate. Lingle Fort Laramie, we sized several years ago, and they're an agricultural community, and it just so happened that it projected that they'd be at 0 students within 9 years. And so we didn't do a capital construction project for 0 students in 9 years. We actually used common sense. We recognize it's an agricultural community, and we actually right-sized that building, and it has been sufficient for them ever since. The other thing we do in capital projects is we always, when we build new schools or do that stuff, we always have a plan to expand that school so that when and if the students continue to grow in there down the road, there's an ability within that construction, those design documents, to expand that building and to prepare it for that it's not just a dead-end road down the road, unless, of course, it's a restricted site and it'd be a better idea to build a new school somewhere else when it justifies. So yeah, this is a tool, and it's not hard and fast. It's flexible, and thankfully the rules and regs for the commission do say best available data, and we always use our common sense and work with school districts to provide that data for them. And I don't think we've underbuilt anything in the last who knows how many years. And so I think it's working pretty well. But you're right, it's a mathematical computation. It's built on data, our formulas, and we fully agree that well, I wouldn't, in your community, I wouldn't anticipate this at all. So again, just a tool. So looking at and supporting your idea, you guys can see how stable you are, by the way. You guys have gotten into 1800s, and you guys are just slowly climbing up, just a little bit each year, and we see that as well. So with that, even though it's perhaps inadequate for determining that, we put it in there as illustrative of the mathematical computation. Go ahead.
This is Jay again, and I don't mean to belabor this, but I'll use Powell High School as an example. That when we built that, I guess that was maybe 11 years ago, I would contend that we did underbuild it. We're in a position right now where we're adding another teacher and a half, and we're trying to find closets to put kids in. And so clearly the metric is not taking into consideration actual on-the-ground market data on what's happening. This isn't a mathematical, when you look at enrollment projection, it's not just a mathematical formula. We have way too many kids in Powell High School right now, and if we continue to grow the way we have, we're going to have to come to you and ask to either add on to the school or I think that you guys have shut down the use of temporary buildings. At least that's been what I've been told. I don't know that that's for sure, but we are, if we continue to grow, our high school is going to be in crisis within the next 2 or 3 years. So your point is well taken. I know it's just a tool. I know you made the comment that you haven't underbuilt many. I would disagree that Powell High School is one that you underbuilt.
Hey, thank you, Jay. Appreciate that. We could talk philosophy a little bit more, and I'm pretty good at that, but I think that we've both expressed our concerns. And I think, and let me just say one more thing. I think the majority of school districts around the state, we've got some that have half-filled buildings. They're literally 50% full according to the capacity methodology. And they're saying they're struggling putting in the programs within that building and making it work for educational suitability. We acknowledge that. We also acknowledge that we have rules and regs and methodologies that guide us, and there's not a pure separation between the two, and yet at the same time there has to be some way to measure it and have an objective process. And I think that you're talking about delivery of education, which is why these buildings are built, and we're talking about a methodology that can be applied statewide and be equitable, and the two sometimes struggle to get along with each other. Statewide, we still have a statewide capacity list. This is kind of an interesting list. The School Facilities Commission did change their rules and regs just this last fall, but before then they changed it and they took away the restricted capacity of 16 in K through 3. They put it up to 25. Districts came and had a heartburn over that and really had concerns. Public testimony as we changed our rule, or they changed our rules and regs. And so the commission went back and they did a restricted capacity of 16. Last year we had 2 in the high capacity category. Now we have a total of, what is that, 6, 7. Casper is almost a non-player in a way. They're lacking 300 seats in the schools they're using. But down here I made sure Charlie put in the fact that they mothballed 4 schools that are in pretty good shape. They have 921 seats available. But you can see high capacity according to the rules and regs of the commission have really increased this year because of that change. And there's nothing in state statute that requires a matching of our methodology to the funding model for you guys for teacher-student ratios, but the commission chose to do that, and obviously that's what we use. So you guys did mention steady increase. I think that's part of your argument is the fact that you're continuing to grow, and you guys feel like that not only feel but are experiencing educational challenges in the delivery of your education within those spaces. I said, according to the SFC calculation, district has sufficient capacity for enrolled students. Any other comments?
The only comment on that is I see that it says we have sufficient capacity, but I don't know that that takes into consideration a building by building. The capacity it doesn't take into consideration the offerings that we are trying to provide for our students, because whereas we might have, you know, a few classes that may only have 15 to 18 kids in them, we have other classes of 29 kids, and so that your model kind of assumes that we can just neatly fit 21 kids per class every period, and that's just not the way it works in the real world and on the ground in school districts. And so we're trying to educate kids, and I know you guys are there and you support that, but it really is one of those things, and this is, Troy's been on these calls with me many times, but it just is irritating to me that this whole process, and I know you have to have this objective process, but it's a little too objective at times, because our kids have names, they have faces, and they have needs, and neatly fitting 21 kids in every classroom, every period is not realistic in what we're trying to do in Powell. So we feel that our high school is maybe it says we have some capacity. I'm going to disagree because it's not suitable for what we are trying to accomplish. And I would say that our legislature has pretty high expectations of our school districts right now. And when we're trying to accomplish that, the objective metrics don't always work well or play well with those expectations. So that's just know that in the future we may come to you with some requests on our high school to do some things so that we can make that a suitable environment for the number of kids that we actually have and what we're trying to accomplish with them.
Thank you, Jay. Yeah, one of the things I do appreciate about the methodology is that it does break down spaces by usage and adapts the calculations accordingly. And the other thing is the fact that we apply an 85% utilization rate to the spaces, recognizing just the thing you said that sometimes it doesn't fit in even 21 students or whatever, recognizing that you have different offerings you need to take and stuff. So the methodology does take into account both of those issues. That somewhat matches up to what you said, and but I think you'd still claim a disconnect, and I respect that. District has no charter schools. You guys understand the facility planning continuum as buildings get older, they take more money. And there's been a push to asset preservation by the commission and legislature in the last year. And one of the things that we did a report, I think 2 summers ago now, or 2 years ago, to the commission select committee that just showing that we need more major maintenance, and so there are slow. We're just encouraging districts to continue, as always, take care of your ancillary buildings the best you can with your major maintenance, because we don't know when that's going to be justifiable to start making requests for support facilities in the limitations of appropriation, when there are limitations of appropriations for educational buildings. But we'll continue to monitor that and see if there's an opportunity there or a need in the future. Here's your buildings, really in excellent condition from a standpoint of condition. So you guys take pride in your buildings. You do a really good job at taking care of them and are very attentive to them. And so we're really appreciative of that. And you put that here, and we appreciate the extra work you put into these facility plans. It's not just some let's check it off the list and thanks for the meeting. You guys put, I like your notes. You put notes in here that are relevant and that are really pointing out the struggles you guys have. And I know you have down later here in unique issues. I think you're going to talk about this more, but you're welcome to talk about it now. Or we can wait for unique issues to talk about just the struggles you guys are having with regard to expenditures of major maintenance and stuff like that. Would you like to wait till then, or you want to talk about that now?
Rob said we'll wait till the end.
Okay, for the finale. Sounds good. I just said, and I use the word relative. School district has relatively good condition buildings. I'm not saying you have great buildings or you don't have challenges, but my philosophy is I don't want this to go over to some office like governor's office someday and there's just a blank there. So If you guys see something I write and stuff, please make a recommendation. It doesn't really matter to me. I just try to be reflective as best as possible of what we've discussed. Major maintenance, taking care of, again, one of those housekeeping cleaning duties, updating statuses on work orders. We appreciate that. You submit major maintenance, and those that qualify, the PM actually approves. And if you have challenges, they usually send back a little note for you, and you can go back and forth till you get that done. But we appreciate you doing that on a yearly basis. We did have the 680 out of the 680 things that were reported, but this is last year's major maintenance priorities for you guys. This is only illustrative. You don't have to defend your priorities or anything like that. It's just illustrative of last year's from greatest expenditure to least. And then it broke it down by building, same numbers here. And it just shows what you guys valued as of last year. This is a really important one, the FCA scores, facility condition assessment scores. These are system by system scores. And they're super important because every year we have legislators, individual legislators during committee meetings, kind of drilling us on, do these school districts spend their major maintenance on the highest priorities, lowest condition score systems. And so we just decided, you know what, we're not going to speak on your behalf. We're going to let you speak on your behalf. And so we put this together in such a way that is reflective of your priorities, let you speak for yourself. And again, I think you guys do a great job at that, and we appreciate it. And we're not going to go any farther than this, just to say that if someone ever asks for something, we'll have it there.
Troy?
Yes.
Troy?
Yep.
Rob noticed, and I guess you went by it so fast, I was looking the other way. Go back to page 20. Well, on ours, it's page 20, the facility planning, the major maintenance, where it defines major maintenance.
680 report.
And it's where the 680 report is at?
Go on.
Where it was, go one more up.
Okay.
One more up.
Right there.
Right there on insert, that's gone.
I apologize. That should have been in there. I bet when I went back through, I was going to update it, make sure it was there. It probably got deleted. I will bring that back in.
I thought you guys didn't submit a 680, Mary Jo.
Now, she did. She was all over it.
Amber.
No. Yes, ma'am. I didn't hear.
Okay, she'll get that inserted, and we'll get that back to you. Thank you for catching that. And I should have caught that. And all of us should have caught that. Business managers are good at those details.
You know where it's at? It's on my desktop.
Oh boy. Okay.
Okay.
I should have caught that too.
I have their numbers if you need them.
Okay. We'll just insert
I
it.
added to the task list.
Okay. We have a task list. We keep track of all our tasks. We'll get this done. So upcoming state condition assessment. This is important. Every 4 years, state statute requires a condition assessment and on-site assessment of your buildings and all buildings in the state that are, we don't do sheds, but significant buildings. Anyway, we did this year because we want to prepare you. In September this year, we're going to put together a scope, go out, get a consultant, a third-party consultant, hire them. We're going to do a lot of things between then and about April 1st. This one is really, really, really important. Training of districts, it says April 1st. That's just a time we're trying to set when we needed to start certain things and how far back and when we needed to do it in order to get done by December 4th. But in April, Rob, we're going to have a training of districts in Casper. We'll let you know it's the specific date. And that's important because they're going to go through that tool, the condition tool. They're going to train us on what that looks like, what it's used for, how it's used, and more importantly than anything, the importance of the district in the process. So when they show up on site, in the past, we have unfortunately had some school districts hand the keys to the assessors, say, have fun, at the end of the day, return the keys. And that's a very poor habit in some districts. And so, and I think that it's probably very rare now, but we keep saying it year after year when we do these, that it's very important when they show up in your district that you have the best knowledgeable person and they shadow that person the entire time they're doing those assessments on site in your district. Because these scores are based on data. And that data is provided by, we do provide them past capital and major maintenance and security expenditures and all that. But also, they're going to depend on you to help explain systems and other issues, because those scores are driven off of that information, that data. So look forward to having you in Casper. Hope you can attend that. One of the complaints districts have had, not a lot, but just a few, is that fact that these assessors show up during school. Well, when you have over 500 buildings across the state, there's no way we can get those done in 2.5 months in summer. So we have to go kind of in the spring and start early when school's still in session, and kind of trickle into the fall in order to get that done. The assessors are very sensitive to that. They're not trying to disrupt your educational environment. But if we didn't do that, it wouldn't be a $2.5 million job for doing this statewide. It'd probably be a $5 million job. And that's not acceptable from a financial point of view. So appreciate your help there, and they'll be as non-disruptive as possible. But unfortunately, they have to go to some schools in order to get that done. Any questions on the assessment?
No, we don't have any questions. I would be interested in being involved in that, though.
Great. We'll make sure we get that out and invite you, and we'll look forward to seeing you. Thank you. The other important part of that, and since you expressed interest in that, and thank you so much for that, is you guys know we have a pretty thorough process by which in the last assessment, we'll do it in the future, we require them before they, when they apply scores, to run those back through the districts and see if they've missed any data. So a lot of times school district, not a lot of times, sometimes school districts say, well, I want that to be a different score. And they'll say, well, this is the data we drove the score off of. Do you have different data? Did we miss something? And so, Rob, you're going to be able to look through every single score on every single system in every single building. And if you see that they missed something in their notes or data, you can certainly ask them to reconsider that and provide better data. And they'll look at that when they score. Doesn't mean they'll change the score, but certainly if they're missing something, it's, again, we want these as accurate as possible. Okay, component requests. I think you guys expressed something down here, if I recall right. I didn't see where you guys have any component requests, but component projects are basically to supplement major maintenance in school districts. Large school districts make these requests, small school districts, medium. But major maintenance has a limitation. And so if you see something that's huge coming, a roof that's $2.7 million, or down here you can see like Douglas this year, HVAC at $5.5 million. You see something coming down the road and it's huge, and you'd have to save up 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years for major maintenance. That's a great opportunity to use your major maintenance in advance, prepare a component level request, and see if it can get funded. There's no guarantee on this, and it's really kind of a gap type of measure between major maintenance and major capital funding, but it's been used, and I think the legislature understands the importance of it, but they're also somewhat reluctant to keep doing this, and of course we're hoping that they can provide enough major maintenance where this can go away, but that is yet to be seen, so we'll see how that goes. This was done and prioritized by a committee of 12 district representatives from across the state, and so this is the final outcome of that. Brandon will talk just a little bit about the probability. This is just a prioritized list that we will use to make recommendations to the commission. Commission's the final authority by which recommendations go to the select committee. But on average, maybe he can talk to you a little bit of what's happened historically on these kind of requests.
So when we tried transitioning into the asset preservation, the last two appropriations, we had a 20 million and then a 19 million before that appropriation. The attempt there was to try to get some of the backlog of the 1s and 2s cleaned up and then move forward with an increase in the major maintenance payment. The only thing that survived was actually the appropriations on the component projects. The increase in major maintenance, it failed twice, and I'll talk about it here in a minute, last year and this year. So in average though, it's around $6 to $8 million in component per biennial request.
So you can see the majority, 31, if that's the case, and we got the average this year, 31 projects, that would only go through maybe the first 4 or so. So see what happens. We kind of like let districts know what this list looks like, and this is, I think, the first time we've done this successfully and got it on the front end of facility planning, because we're not opposed. I mean, we don't work legislators. That's not our job. Our job is to be neutral and to serve the state of Wyoming. But school districts, when they're there, if they see like Converse 1 is number 5, maybe they encourage their legislators to encourage maybe component project funding to be down to there or something. But it just empowers districts to know where they are on the list and to work whatever process they need to. Okay, I don't know if this is your words, Mary Jo, or whatever, but would you like to talk about this?
What's that, Troy?
Oh, I said I don't know who wrote this, but would anybody like to?
I did.
Okay, go ahead. Would you like to talk about this?
Well, my fear is you look at the depth of need for those facilities with the amount of money that's being requested. My fear is with the increased scrutiny on getting major maintenance stuff pushed through, that the legislature is going to look at the district might have some money held over, and then you have all of these districts asking for millions and millions of dollars, and the perception is going to be in the legislature that we're not spending our money wisely to maintain our facilities. We're just expecting to come to the legislature with our hand out asking for repairs for these large sums of money.
Yeah, good insight.
I would contend that that's already kind of been the case as they start looking around, as legislators have looked around the state and looked at how much major maintenance money we have. I've been asked questions by our local legislators like, why do you guys have so much major maintenance? Aren't you taking care of your buildings? And so we're in a position now where I feel like we're asking for more money, which I think is a good move, but it's counterproductive when we have so much difficulty getting things approved at this point anyway. So, like, why ask for more money if we're not going to be able to use it to maintain our facilities in the way we think is best?
Yeah, good insight, guys. I just said the districts continue to maintain its buildings with available major maintenance funds, made pretty generic. Okay, let's go started last year. This was Brandon's idea actually in the facility planning process, but starting last year, we started going over legislative session review and what has happened, what hasn't happened. Anyway, you guys are tracking on the educational side bills pretty closely during the legislative session. You guys have a mechanism. I think that's through the WASBO site or whatever, and you maybe have other mechanisms by which you are empowered information and keep track. We started doing this. Some of these are covered on your educational side. Some are not. So we like to review these on a yearly basis and make sure that you understand the potential impact that's coming your way.
So before I start, I will talk about one that died, which I think is important, and that's House Bill 8 on the major maintenance multiplier. And like I said a little minute ago, that was the second attempt. And you were just talking about districts having a lot of reserves. I hope that we've educated the legislative body in regards to districts needing to have reserves. We've done multiple studies and presentations to the select committee. We've presented to various committees when bills are going through the legislation about the need for districts. We also were able to get the 7-year phase-in eliminated to show that they need to get payment day one those doors open, and they need to have reserves to pay for massive expenditures like mechanical roofs and boilers. So I think we're getting there. It may take a couple more years, but first one here is House Bill 52, Public Works. This is on procurement of FF&E. So if you're going to do any of that, you'd want to notify your architect. The specifications have to be written so that Wyoming suppliers can provide the products. House Bill 65 is procurement amendments to increase the dollar values. The current dollar values in there were really old. Yeah.
Can you jump back up to that Public Works and Contracts thing? Because I want to know, I actually have a clarification question. So if the specs are that they can supply it and they're still high bid, they don't get it. They
Right,
get
but
5% preference is all, correct?
yeah, the specs have to be written so that, say you own a company, that at least you can provide that product. Now, when the bids are open at 2 o'clock and you're high, well then, that you wouldn't get the project then, but at least they have to be written in a way. And I think, we just had some challenges with bidding FF&E, so legislature just completely changed it so that we at least write the specs to give the locals an ability to have the opportunity to provide those products. And as I go through here, a lot of these this year, there's a lot of preference stuff that they threw in here. So.
And as I read that, refresh me on that public works thing, I need to go back and look. That's only if you're using state dollars, though. Isn't that accurate?
That is correct. I think in this one, and there's another one down here on Senate File 74, because there's also projects, well, such as the military. Those projects run through us, and it's also a blend of federal funds and then, YDOT and stuff. So if there's federal funds involved, then this would not apply. Or any funds that have that caveat tied to it. So the goal of the legislature is trying to keep, state funds, keeping state people employed. House Bill 65, that was, like I was saying, just getting the dollars increase. They're written a long time ago. So they had, 30-year-old values. So it brought those dollars up to present value of today's dollars. House Bill 78, this is going to quarterly payments on major maintenance. So when we testified, we talked about the cons of this, that districts need to have reserves. This is an example. They did push it out to be 1 year, so it gives districts time to sort of look at their cash flow, look at the projects coming up, but it will have an impact on, facilities directors' plans on doing major maintenance. The one thing they did also, and this is another reason I think they're recognizing, is on the college side, which is tied to this bill, they let them increase their reserves. They're limited on how much they can have in the bank. And they increase that up to, I think, 18%, recognizing the need for big expenditures and being able to save for that. School finance interfund loans, this is given the ability to move money between coffee cans and take loans out to fund, as you know, capital construction and school, or the Coley's bonus is pretty much drying up. So looking at way to finance projects. You got any underground projects going on? House Bill 152, the penalty was $500 if you dig through a utility. They increased up to $5,000. So if you got any utility civil work going on, the architect will probably want to make sure those requirements are in the front end bid docs, so that everybody's on board. Nobody gets a big $5,000 fine. Senate File 49 is on private schools, trying to get private schools having the same type facilities as public schools. Senate File 57 is public records. I wanted to adjust some of the requirements and deliverables there. This is another attempt on Senate File 74 to keep the state dollars local. It's a tiered system in professional service providers, and to try to keep the bulk of the work and the design firms being done by Wyoming employees. And then House Bill 51 is what the appropriations was put in. They used to know, as you may know, they used to put, the select committee would write a bill when they review the needs from the commission, and now they're sticking it into House Bill 1, so it's just in the whole state budget. So these are the projects that came through. We had Satellite High School in Sweetwater, Sheridan 2, got John C. Schiffer. There's a ranch school. It got reappropriation from 3 existing modulars to do this last rural school. There's some charter school lease here in Laramie. The commission always has their unanticipated amounts in case something goes south. Security projects, this is the attempt that we're going to keep trying to do, is make it clean appropriations and not dilute the major maintenance. So you see they did do the appropriations here. Then also you'll see a little uptick in your major maintenance payment. When we ran the calculation, the artist means number went up due to the cost of construction increasing. So you'll see a little increase there. And then there's another charter school lease here in Laramie one as well. So only 33 million, so it's down significantly from the history. So, yep, so House Bill 65, you're saying, that one, and 74, so the procurement ones are the ones, yeah, lobbied heavily against.
The procurement one wasn't necessarily the one about changing the bid bond and all that. It was actually the one that required it to be all in-state architectural and engineering firms for professional services.
Yeah. Yeah, there'll be challenges as we move forward and try to implement it. And I guess, one thing we'll have to do is report back to the legislature, let them know how the pros and cons are.
Yeah, but here's my question on that. So I am going to jump in on this. So you've got to do it with in-state firms, all right? And we can give you data, and that's why we went to this thing about, particularly on the procurement thing with architectural and engineering. So we bid out a job last year. We asked for bids from a RET, who is in Sheridan, and also from CTA. It's going to cost the state more money because the difference, it was 75% higher from an in-state firm versus going to CTA, who we've had a long-term relationship. And nothing the matter with our RET. We've used a RET on different projects, but from project to project, depending on what workload is, what features you need, what consultants you need, they can't. Some of these firms can't do it, or they're so high. And if we're into that, I guess that's our concern is that is actually going to cost the state more dollars. And we cry the poor all the time, and then we're putting in things that don't make sense. We're using taxpayer dollars for something that actually ends up costing us more and reduces our ability to actually put that, we're paying an architectural or engineering firm more, and it takes away from the construction of the building and what we're actually putting in place for kids.
Yeah, I hear you. We did a fiscal impact stating exactly what you said. So I think the way the legislature, when we presented the fiscal impact is this is state dollars or we're going to spend it on state people. So I didn't really argue with them much after that.
Okay, guys, we'll go on to the next one here, biennial budget requests. Maybe I'll move that down, maybe. Because you're going to do this anyway, right, Amber? You'll readjust this. Yep. All right, so biennial budget requests. Let's see, you talked about this right here, groundwater source, middle school. I didn't see you asking actually for any monies on that. You were just expressing concerns with regard to that and having to get that done.
Well, we may actually look at component funding for that. It's going to be extremely expensive. When that was built, they're utilizing well fields, like I said, and it's never worked correctly. The building automation system, we can't adjust that. We have a hard time maintaining the adequate temperatures, and then when things get off, we have to actually hire HVAC contractors to come in and do just about anything with that system, since we can't actually adjust it or control it ourselves. The recommendation from them is that we do away with those well fields and go with a cooling tower system like we've got at the middle school, and it actually functions pretty good. But it's going to be a project. We're going to have to pretty much touch every component in that system in that high school, so it's going to be a big chunk of change.
I think that's when you saw that $5 million or $4 or $5 million one above on Douglas. That was what they were thinking. You touch a system like that, and all of a sudden it's so holistic that it becomes very, very expensive. So I always ask this question, but before I do, so you guys know our rules and regs were updated this last fall, early winter, whenever that was. And so now there's, I guess, new updated rules, and those rules require several things to happen. You know, we've traditionally, historically submitted a capacity list, and made the commission's made requests off that capacity list from the higher end down. Condition list, same thing. When capital funds were generated off of either a condition list or a capacity list, educational suitability was also considered in that and dealt with at the same time. So now rules and regs very specifically say that every building will not have there will not be an independent capacity list and condition list dealing with educational suitability and the remedy, but rather that every building will have a 50% weighting for facility condition of that building, 35% weighting for capacity, and then 15% weighting for educational suitability. There was done, you guys have been, again, around long enough, you probably remember the educational suitability or functionality assessment back in 2009, 8-9, that ended up in a list in 2010 that was eventually kind of not used per select committee directives. But at any rate, we do have an educational suitability scores for most or a lot of the buildings in the districts dated back in 2010. So a lot of things have changed then. We know that, but we know also that the best available data we have is that set of scores. So it'll be interesting how we work through this. It is not a perfect system. We'll be very transparent in its weaknesses, and then we'll have maybe an opportunity to ask for additional monies to go out and maybe do an educational suitability. We already have, what do you call that? Through the legislature, the 3 things we're asking for considering education suitability is one of them.
Oh, interim study.
Yeah, so we've asked for or pushing for an interim study in the meantime to look at educational suitability, how that could work statewide. One of our simplistic solutions to that, and this is very simplistic, I mean, in your school district, you talk to 2 principals, they're going to have different ideas. There's not 2 people in your district or any district that have the same ideas about what's educationally suitable. And those 2 people might be in the same building. So it's a challenge. So one of the thoughts perhaps is just like a major maintenance, and these are just thoughts, nothing concrete by any means. But just like there's a major maintenance calculation driven by state statute and driven off of ADM and so on and so forth, we wonder if there could be something driven off of ADM or some other criteria in school districts that could drive an educational suitability type of payment, like a major maintenance payment. And then it's left up to the school boards, as long as they put it toward facilities, not your teacher salaries or whatever, for school districts school boards be able to prioritize what they believe as they get those payments, what they believe would be the best way to address and prioritize educational suitability within their district with that resource. That's one thought. The difficulty with that thought is, how can it be measurable? How can it assure the legislature that districts are really doing what they should be doing with state monies? But the other thing is we're going to have to go out and update our educational suitability tool. So we're very wanting to engage the stakeholders across state and school districts to do that, and go through a process in which that comes to another suitability type of opportunity, and we go out and reassess, and that drives new scores, and then there's some kind of prioritization based on that system of educational suitability criteria. Those are some ideas. What do you guys think, and what's your ideas on that?
Are you asking just on the educational suitability piece of it, or what?
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, what's in rules and regs on condition weighting. No, I was more referring to the educational suitability side of that. I think the capacity and stuff is a little bit less controversial, but I was asking about maybe the education suitability and what you guys thought about the future of that, and if you have any opinions of on that at all. You don't have to have. I'm just asking.
So I guess this is Jay. My only comment on that is that as an educational institution, I think the suitability of our facilities for whatever our current goals are with our students, and I know that that can be sometimes a moving target. You get new superintendent comes in, might have a change to, you know, the system as a whole. But to me, weighting educational suitability at 15%, like I'm going to use our Powell High School, the issue that we just brought up a few minutes ago with the heating and cooling and the difficulty of actually keeping those temperatures within a range that we feel is suitable for education. To me, it really is a disservice to the students at Powell High School, or any high school for that matter, if the fact that we can't, let me put it to you this way. Kids can't learn if they are cold or hot. And at least they can't learn at a high level. They're too worried about whether or not they're cold or hot, and not very worried about the content that is being covered by their teacher at that moment. And quite frankly, it's difficult for teachers to teach when it's, you know, too cold or too hot. And so we look at this weighting right now, and we know, we were sitting here talking with the mute on, that Powell High School will never be on the radar. With this weighting, Powell High School will never be on the radar to correct those systems that would allow us to teach our kids at the level that we want to teach them. We lose the ability, and it's almost becomes like an equity issue. You know, if the kids at Cody High School have their temperatures within a range that is comfortable, they have more of an opportunity to learn than the kids at Powell High School. And yet, this system, the way it is currently, we just lose in that situation. So I think that educational suitability, and your point is well taken, that if you sit down in a room of people and you ask 5 people what is suitable for the education, they might have a different answer. But at the end of the day, I would think that a board and a superintendent would be the one that would be making those decisions for their district, what is educationally suitable. And I think that that should carry a much, much, much higher rate, because when you talk educational suitability, here's the way that equates to me: learning. And student learning, all of our decisions should be based on student learning, period. And if anyone argues that that should not be the case, I would argue that you shouldn't be making decisions about educational buildings. If you can't tell me that the very highest priority is student learning, and the way this is weighted, that is not what it indicates to me. To me, that means educational learning comes last, and the comfort of the adults and the weighting to facility condition and the capacity is more important, because those are easy to defend, that's more important. And I just think that that's a disservice to the students of Wyoming, and certainly is a disservice to the students of Powell High School right now.
Thank you, Jay. Obviously, we're looking at soliciting you and every other school district to participate in that process when it comes about, if it comes about. So, because these are very important discussions, and we're not the solution to that. We're the mechanism by which, if we do get monies, to put it together and to engage stakeholders. But you guys need to voice your thoughts, and those are great thoughts. Appreciate it. Are you okay with that statement, Jay, that I put in there?
Yeah, that looks fine.
Okay, good.
I guess I could have been a lot more distinct in my argument, because, you know, what I took 2 minutes to say is stated perfectly in one sentence. So
No, and it's good. And what I'm doing is I'm using these facility plan meetings as kind of a catalyst for us to be thinking about when and if we go out to do this, that we've thought about this stuff and put the process in place in such a way that that honors a very thorough investigation of how this can happen and justification on the backside to ask for monies from the legislature and how to prioritize those in a correct way and in a way that honors what school districts are about, and yet at the same time is equitable across the state for all districts. And you know, one of the problems with systems is that they always have sideboards, and that's not a problem. It's just a reality. And so in every system there are these circumstances that just don't fit into the system. And so we hate to do something and then well, just like the rules and regs you see here. I mean, there's going to be a single list, and there's going to be out of 400 and some buildings, 450 educational buildings, there's going to be a single list, and there's golly, not a lot of money going toward educational buildings right now in facilities. So who's at the top of the list gets the money, and the other 457 don't. And so those are the things that we're trying to think through, and hopefully you guys can help us do that in a way that maybe educational suitability is provided in such a way that allows every district to have an opportunity to improve educational suitability along the way, instead of waiting 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, like you said, on your high school, to even receive any money whatsoever, because it never filtered through some kind of weighting mechanism that combined 3 scores. I'm not criticizing that. I'm just making an observation of reality.
Yeah, Troy, and your point is well taken. I fully understand and actually really support that there is an objective method for looking at this. I'm also someone who knows that there should be exceptions to every rule, and as long as there's a system for issues like heating and cooling, that obviously we do not have the means, we don't get enough major maintenance to address this issue. So as long as, I think the system is good, but there just need to be some safeguards built in there where those requests can be made and considered on their merits and how it's affecting, 560 students or 550, whatever it is right now, and 80 adults, and what it means to those people. I think that, and I know that if you traveled to the 48 districts, every one of us would have probably one of those that or more that we bring as something that is not suitable for the education of our kids. So I get that. I know other superintendents. I know that you got 48 type A personalities out there that are worried about their district. But I guess at the end of the day, what I'm saying is every good system, in my opinion, also has some room for some flexibility to make a good and appropriate argument for and actual have real consideration for those extraneous requests that we feel are holding us back.
Yeah, and you're right. Every single school district would have those in their mind. It's going to be a challenge, but it's good. Good words. Okay, thanks, guys.
As long as we all agree that just PAR01 comes first, then I would be happy. So if you can go on record and PAR01, just kidding.
Can I go back up real quick to the component request before we dive into that? This is Steve, and I just wanted to mention, when you guys are thinking about this cooling system and the component request and possibly doing that, just wanted to let you know that we do allow for usage of major maintenance money to do the design work in preparation for putting together a component level project. So just wanted you to know that that is an option for you.
Thank you.
So Rob, your next opportunity that is 2020, starting in about January. So is that right? That's just coming January. Am I thinking right?
Yeah, because we're doing the 2021 budget right now.
That's right. So just let you know, and that would lead eventually into the next. Is that right? I think it is. the next biennial budget request. So anyway, not too soon to think about that. Okay, guys, here's your last hurrah. Unique issues, ideas, concerns. We always ask this question. You know, what have we not discussed that you want to discuss? Give you that last word. Please have at it.
I'll start. This is Rob. You know, we started getting harder and harder to get major maintenance projects approved. Oh, back when John was kind of in transit. Like I said, I explained in here, we had a phone system that was 10 or 11 years old, and it was denied. We were going to take on all of the ongoing maintenance with the system and any ongoing software upgrades and things like that, and we just wanted replacement of the system, and it was declined. Went to Paul, and it was declined. Talked to Shelby. She said, I don't think it qualifies. Had to go clear to Dell to get it approved. And then also we're working on trying to upgrade the educational suitability of one of our elementary schools. It's got an old stub wall in there that they use for a bank of computers. Our kids now have one-to-one laptops or one-to-one iPads, so that is not an educational suitable environment. And in that library, and flat denied that we could not remodel that room by taking out that pony wall and replacing the carpet. Paul's comment was, I don't know what funds you built that wall with, but you can't use major maintenance funds to take it out. And if those don't qualify for major maintenance funds, we're going to have an increasingly harder and harder time to maintain our facilities and spend our major maintenance on what we feel is major maintenance. And it's if you look at our FCI scores, we do a pretty darn good job in this district, are maintaining our buildings at a pretty high level. But if we can't get simple things like removing a 10-foot long, 4-foot high wall out of a building and replacing the carpet, I'm not sure we'll be able to maintain anything.
Yeah, noted. And we do note that there has been some transition into where we're at now with major maintenance. To address some of the concerns, I don't have a lot of background on the phone system. I can go back and kind of research notes on that, on how, I mean, if it went to Paul and then to Shelby and then to Dell, obviously there was some thinking there. But what I will tell you is a couple of things. Number one, the Attorney General issued an opinion back in June of 2018 that kind of clarified some language in the major maintenance. That is on our website, so you're able to go read that Attorney General's opinion that kind of clarified some things. One of the big things that's pointed out in that opinion is talking about changes in systems, and it's very specific in that particular opinion that changes in existing systems are not allowed to use major maintenance money. So whether it's a wall system or a floor system in a building, we're bound by statute and by that Attorney General's opinion on kind of how we approve things. So
I would disagree that that's a change in the system. That's educational suitability, in my opinion. The system is a library where kids learn. By taking out a wall where you're increasing the educational space and the storage space of books and that type of thing, I don't see how that's changing a system.
Okay. Well, and like I say, we can continue. I just wanted to point out that we're kind of bound by statute, and we're trying to follow statute the best we can on that. Also acknowledging that the Wyoming Department of Education does issue a block grant funding for maintenance needs. So where we're kind of at right now is we're just trying to make sure that the major maintenance needs aren't covering routine maintenance and not changing its system. Those are kind of the main things that we're looking at now. Now, being a new project manager, I noticed you noted in here, it's a bit cumbersome and time consuming. And what I can tell you is the more information that you can give me, being a new project manager, the easier it's going to make me, or it's going to be for me to determine, if the use of major maintenance is appropriate usage. So moving forward, I commit to working with you, and the more information that we can communicate in those work orders, I think the easier it will be for me to determine what is and isn't appropriate.
This is Mary Jo. I'm going to jump in about the WDE and the block grant thing. The block grant was never intended to do major maintenance type of work. It's very specifically denied that you're supposed to be using it for that. It's routine maintenance. That's what we generate dollars for, is routine maintenance, not anything that's major maintenance. If you try to buy something for your transportation building that even reeks of something that can be approved in major maintenance, it's denied. We actually pay money back. So I just throw that out, that don't try to throw it over that it's block grant dollars, because that's not accurate. That same language in statute has been in place for years. And I've been doing this for a long time, almost 30 years. So I've been here since major maintenance started. And this is what the problem is all of a sudden now major maintenance has changed to what we're allowed to do with it. And the statute hasn't changed. The statute hasn't changed. An attorney general, that's just another attorney as far as I'm concerned. You can go ask a different attorney and he's going to give you a different opinion of what that says. That is the whole problem with that. And I concur with Rob, but I'm just throwing it out about the WDE part of it. And I know Jay's going to jump in here with some additional comments.
So the only thing that I wanted to add to all of this is that, and I understand that you are bound by statute, so are we. We have a whole book of educational statutes and we have to follow all of them. And at the end of the day, here's what it boils down to for us. We're really trying very hard to educate our students in the very best manner fit. We don't use major maintenance as a personal piggy bank. We don't use major maintenance to do pet projects. We are trying to make space that is suitable to educate the children in Powell. And using that library as an example, it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but okay, so the carpet in there has to be replaced one way or another. It is due for replacement. That should qualify for major maintenance, and it's Rob's understanding, and at least what he communicated to me, is that if we take that stub wall out, that none of it would be approved. So carpet that's due to be replaced anyway, so we're talking an extra, gosh, that can't be more than 4 or 5 square feet of carpet if we take the stub wall out, and so then the carpet wouldn't be approved. And so if that's the case, I think we're losing a little bit of our common sense on the way we're applying this to major maintenance. And so here's what I'm going to leave you with. I'm going to actually ask a question. I'd like the answer to be on record. And then I have a few questions about where we go from here. My question is, if we take that stub wall out ourselves at our expense, can we get the carpet approved through major maintenance?
And the way I'll answer that is that particular work order that Rob turned in was kind of a 3-pronged work order. It included a lot of other work other than that wall. It included some upgrades to a bathroom area, and it included other work other than that wall. Everything in that work order was told that would fly and we would approve for major maintenance use. It was just the demolition of the stub wall. Now, if you want to replace carpet in the library, yes, that's absolutely appropriate use of regular major maintenance. The only hang up on that was the removal of that stub wall. So there were other parts of that work order that were approved. That was the only thing that was a point of contention.
So is there no room to like within, and this is maybe my ignorance, but is there no room to just deny, like, I approve everything except for you're going to have to pay for the removal of the stub wall? Like, instead of making us go through all of this work and worry about it and have conversations on our end, this just seems to me like something that's really easy that we're making really difficult. So in the future, as we move forward, if we have a multi-layered request, which to us, we've done hundreds of times, can we not just do something where we say, maybe have you write us a note, I'll approve this work order, but you cannot use major maintenance to remove that stub wall. Everything else is okay. And we move forward. We take that cost off and we move forward. But because maybe you don't understand, but this causes a lot of work for us on our end. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources, and it's inefficient. And so is there room for that, I guess, is my question.
Absolutely, and I'll take responsibility. Being a new project manager, you know, going through the learning process, actually, you know, I have learned and I have received requests from districts now where that's real easy to do. It's just to say, hey, everything here is real great except this one thing you're going to have to fund yourself. So your point is well taken. That's a great way to do business is to, and I understand the work that Rob puts in, that you guys putting these things together. Moving forward, yes, that's an easy ask, and you know, I will communicate better on that in the future. But well pointed out, and I think we'll be able to get this thing straightened out a little bit for you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen.
Very much.
Okay.
I really appreciate your response, by the way, Paul. That's, you know, it's a tough conversation to have. Or was that Paul or Steve? I don't even.
Steve.
That was Steve. Okay, sorry. Steve, thank you very much for your response. You know, when faced with issues and discussions like this, sometimes it's really easy to stiffen your back, and I appreciate that wasn't your response. I appreciate that you're willing to work with us as a district, and just know that that's reciprocated by us. We really do want to work with you, and we, at the end of the day, we want to play by the rules. We just sometimes, you know, sometimes it seems like the rules are changing for us, and that's difficult for districts. So thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, Jay, we have to acknowledge we're not perfect. We're nearly perfect, but not perfect. A little bit of humor there. At any rate, guys, sure appreciate, we always enjoy getting time with you and your experience and things like that. And we become better. And I think communication is always such an important part of this process and facility planning. I think that's it. Anything else, district, before we close the meeting?
I don't think we have anything else as a district.
Appreciate the time and the discussion.
You betcha. You bet, Mary Jo. Steve, have you gone up there yet? Have you met with them?
Yeah, I met Rob and Mary Jo. I haven't met Jay yet.
Okay, great.
District, thank you for your time. I've got the acreage. I sent you an email just to double check. I will insert that once Mary Jo and Rob, you validate that is correct. Also made notes in AIM to have that. I also, Mary Jo, have an email to JJ. I'm going to go down to his office and we will send you back that spreadsheet and the adjustments. And we'll get that other portion inserted for you as well.
Okay, well, thank you so much, staff. Anything else? No, we're good? Okay, I'll go ahead and end the meeting. You guys enjoy your day. Jay will get this over for signature once everything's appropriate and up to date, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Take care. Look forward to seeing you again. Bye.
Bye.